special PowerPoint presentation on Buddhist psychology. Go back to number 1. Right, so this is the title page. So you can see this picture here. This presentation is based on 8C, SD 17, volume 17, chapter 8C. So you can see here this diagram, or this picture, Time Magazine, 4th August 2003. We have, instead of a famous politician or some big name, here we have this topic, the subject, meditation. It is on the cover of Time Magazine to show that meditation has become mainstream. And we talk about meditation here many times, but most commonly today, the one that is most widely used is the kind of meditation we usually do here, based on breath meditation and loving kindness. Of course, you will not hear these names because the various specialists, scientists, mind scientists, psychotherapists, they will try to incorporate this ancient Buddhist method into their own method, and then give it a new name, like breath work, dynamic breathing, and so on, all kinds of copyrighted names. So we see, in other words, this is a new way for learning, if you like, sort of a post-Freudian kind of paradigm, meaning this time, this post-Freudian psychology is based on the 3 trainings, if you like. As Buddhists, we can comfortably talk in that way. In other words, ethics is very important. In the pre-Buddhist psychology, you find there's no ethics at all. I mean, it's a very experimental environment, so the psychologists themselves try all kinds of things, and they often give in to their human weaknesses and failings. So now, of course, after a few centuries, the modern psychological thinkers feel that ethics is a very important aspect of psychology. In fact, they were wondering what's wrong with their methods. Things seem to be working, but some aspects are still not defined. Of course, in Buddhism, we say ethics is very important. Ethics, why is ethics very important? Because it deals with the body and speech. If you do not calm your body and speech down, it's very difficult to calm the mind down. You cannot go to the roots of the problem. And this brings us to the second point. In Buddhist psychology, post-Freudian psychology, you go deep down to the roots of the mind. So this is where Buddhist counseling is very different from clinical counseling. Of course, both are uses. You can't use one without the other. Of course, the clinical counselors will tell you where they don't need Buddhist counseling, perhaps. But if you watch them carefully, somehow they will use Buddhist methods, although the name is not there. The very term cognitive behaviorist or cognitive behavior therapy, for example, talks a lot about the way the Buddhists see human training. Today, one of the most popular methods is called cognitive behavior therapy. Behavior deals with body and speech, generally speaking, and cognitive deals with the mind. So you have to kind of harmonize both body and mind. So this one, cognitive behavior therapy, is one of the most popular because it works. And there are many methods, people give it all kinds of names, but when you really help and counsel people, you find the names of methods, the method which is important. When you're dealing with someone who has a problem in front of you, you put this person first, and whatever method you know, you use to help this person. So Buddhism has a big range of methods. Why is Buddhist meditation such a caught the imagination of these mind scientists? Number one, these scientists were surprised that Buddhism has, number one, got the terminology. For example, we've got 3 terms for consciousness. Mano, Citta, Vijnana. And in the last week's lesson, remember, I went into some details to show that they can be identical, they can be synonymous. At the same time, these three words can also have different, very specific meanings. Then, we have many other terms of perception for various other emotions. The Buddha clearly defines what feeling is, or what feelings are, what consciousness is, and so on. The terminology is very wide, very rich, and very clear, and very important in Buddhism. Well defined. Number two, the Buddha also has got various kinds of theories explaining in detail these various terminology. And then the Buddha also talks about, gives stories, case studies, which are also very important in the Buddhist psychology. Stories of great monks and nuns and lay people who went through a lot of suffering and how they were healed. And then you have the methods themselves, how to overcome these problems. Two kinds. I call them two kinds. One is mindfulness methods and the other is meditation methods. Mindfulness method, for example, visualization, some simple kind of calming exercises, and then you have deeper meditation. So meditation especially go down to the roots of the problem. So the modern scientists were amazed that the tradition that is 2,500 years old have got all these fantastic aspects of very modern psychology. And also you find whatever Freud, for example, Freud has to say, Buddhism has got all those structures and diagrams. You can see that on the iceberg diagram, for example, we have different terms for consciousness. So this is where, let me go to the diagram first. I'm going to go kind of systematically talk with the first ideas first. Okay, here. So we can see on the top here, this is the body and speech, which is the our conscious level here. And then on that diagram there, you can see that's the one simplified. This we call this cognitive consciousness. Now these terms on the right here, these are modern terms, and the Buddhists are very comfortable with these terms. In fact, these kind of terms help us to understand, help us to talk about the mind more clearly, and we can have a dialogue with the scientists, so to speak, without any qualms, without watering down Buddhism at all. In fact, we begin to understand much better. These are like catchwords from where we can go deeper. For example, what is cognitive consciousness? We can go to talk about the five physical senses, which are called panchendriya, and so on. And there's a rich literature in the sutras about the five physical senses. And then you have what are called the six sense bases. Five physical senses plus the mind. So you call it salayatana, for example. And when we talk about cognitive consciousness, we refer to the six sense bases. Cognitive comes from the word cognize, meaning how we know things, anything related with knowledge, dealing with what we know. Now, below that level, you have what's called, what I call the cognitive consciousness. The mind that is pre-conscious, we know, but other people do not know. In other words, when we are going to talk to people, we kind of more or less quickly plan what we're going to say, hold back some thoughts, some words maybe. That's called cognitive. Cognitive simply means something like willing, intention, right? Things like that. We plan ahead, we deliberate before we talk. So we can call that the pre-conscious. Okay? Conscious, pre-conscious. So pre-conscious is where the three roots, greed, illusion, play around. So we have to be mindful there and be careful how we say things. Try our best not to ensure that we are not motivated by greed and illusion. And that is expressed through the body and speech. So to train our body and speech, the Buddha prescribes the precepts, the five precepts. The five precepts help to humanize us. We behave as humans. If we don't observe the precepts, then we're going to fall to the subhuman state. So everything is so clear there. And here in the pre-conscious, you have a kind of a mental aspect which needs to be strengthened through some kind of mental control, where here you have feelings in this diagram over here, perception, formation, these are the five indicates. In other words, through meditation we can adjust, we can discipline the deeper aspects of the mind so that we have more control of how we express ourselves publicly. So meditation is the second part here, okay? Because this part is the mind. So meditation deals directly with the mind. But even then, there's something deeper controlling us. And this, I call this the unconscious, because we're not even aware of this thing. They are latent tendencies. Now here you have the three roots: greed, hate, illusion. Lower down here, as latent tendencies, they are lust, aversion, and ignorance. So they're even more primordial, if you like. You're not even aware they are there. They're called latent because they lie waiting. They are dormant. And they follow us life after life, so to speak. And that is why I place it just above rebirth consciousness. This is the part, this is the gene, if you like, G-E-N-E gene, that is reborn, the rebirth gene, if you like, the psychic gene, the consciousness that is reborn. So, of course, it brings along the latent tendencies also. This part is left behind, the conscious part is left behind, the subconscious moves on. This subconscious is always with us. Right? According to Abhidhamma, right now if you're listening to me, your subconscious is displaced, as it were. Meaning, you are listening to me, so the conscious aspect is acting. It is active. But once you start resting, you go to sleep, then this rebirth consciousness or bhavanga will activate itself. Sometimes it is called a life continuum. It is something that keeps the continuity, keeps you alive, your karma, so to speak. Okay? So we don't die because our subconscious, our rebirth consciousness, or bhavanga, which is life continuum, the many words for it in the suttas, is there, keeping us going. The coming energy is there. This is called existential consciousness in modern terms. It's got to do with the word exists. It keeps us going. So you can see these terms: cognitive consciousness, cognitive consciousness, existential consciousness. Now, of course, the word consciousness itself is meaningful when we talk about Buddhism, especially in terms of meditation. Okay? Any questions on this? Very good. Anyway, all these terms are given in detail in your notes. Now let's go back to this. Yes, these are all in your book. All these diagrams are in the book. So the appeal of early Buddhism, here I like to specifically talk about early Buddhism so that we are more focused. Buddhism is a very rich tradition, we can talk a lot about things. Page 95, 95 onwards. Now, so one of the wonderful things that appeal to the Western mind, the scientists and the modern philosophers and teachers and thinkers, is that although Buddhism is known worldwide as a religion, Buddhism doesn't place much emphasis on God. There is no God worship in Buddhism, otherwise. So this alone kind of, cost a bit of people, so even rock the scholarship book in the West. How to define Buddhism? Is a religion, is a philosophy, and so on. You can use any term you like, depending on which aspect of Buddhism you're talking about. Of course, if you talk about meditation, which is the second of the three trainings, then you can say Buddhism is a psychology, if you like. It doesn't matter what you call it, important thing is what you do with it. So if you look at Buddhism psychology, we're talking about mind training, right? So we don't need the God idea when we talk about mind training. And there is, since we don't talk about the greater God idea, we also do not talk about the abiding soul. And this is very important in Buddhist psychology. Because the idea of an unchanging soul can also mean that our personality is fixed. But since we do not have an abiding entity, that means our personality, our character is in process. We are all processes. We are not states. Not so much as state, meaning something unchanging, stable, but we are changing all the time. Of course, stability and change again depends on how we define it. Right now, as you are sitting here, as I'm talking to you, we are, in a sense, stable beings. If you can say that my talking, changing words and so on is being stable, meaning it's within a range of changes, yeah, that's fine. Okay? But even in this stability, there is change. And this doctrine of change or anicca in Buddhism is central, very important. We can change. There is hope. And this is a very important, the very first piece of good news. We must keep telling the counseling. When someone is worried, trouble comes to us, we tell this person, everything is changing. You can change, we can change for the better. And by the very token, we cannot talk about anything that does not change. For example, the God idea. God ideas change, by the way. But if you talk about God, capital G God, no matter how big you want the G to be, it doesn't make sense to have such a being. Because the moment you define a God, you put this God into existence, if possible, then it must undergo change. Right? So, this notion of change is very important in healing methods of Buddhism. Buddhists, in fact, are not required to believe anything. Not required. In other words, you can believe what you like, but be careful what you believe. Because to believe something means it's not based on facts. It's based on hope, it's based on some kind of desire. In other words, it's based on our knowledge, or we think it is true knowledge. In other words, whatever ideas we have right now, even of Buddhism, even of the most holy thing, is provisional. Remember, all views are provisional. Notice if you look at our lives since we were young until now, how often we have changed our minds. And Buddhism is a great mind changer. And in changing our minds, we are like a tree. Notice how quite a tree, the bark of a tree is broken, brown, dark, and the bits and pieces of it fall off. It's growing. It is growing, so the bark falls off and the trunk grows. So the more ideas we shed away, the more we are growing. Like an onion, you peel off the skin, layer after layer, leaf after leaf, in the end there's nothing. So same thing, if you let go your opinions bit by bit, your views bit by bit, in the end, no more opinion. That's what I like. It is opinions and views that cause us suffering. This I am thing, ask me mana about. So there you are, you're disturbed. Ask me mana. The conceit that I am, the measuring idea that I am this, I am that. In simple terms, we say that's the owning syndrome. I am syndrome, if you like. I am unhappy, this person hurt me, my something is lost. So I is the cause of our suffering. When we identify, when we own the suffering, pain arises. So we have to let go of this I, or this I-ness. Of course, we can't claim that I have no views at all. Right now, you and I, we do have views. But the point is to apply the teaching of impermanence to it and say that even these views are impermanent. In other words, views are like the rungs on the ladder of wisdom. Okay? You step on them so that you can rise higher. And the next one. Now, some of the rungs are not very strong, so to be very careful how you stand on them. Or maybe you can miss them, just go to the next one. And as you go high up the rung, you don't bother about the lower rungs anymore. You can talk about them if you like, but you don't bother about them. And once you reach the top, you don't even need the ladder anymore. This is the modern part about the ladder. The older one is about the raft. So in other words, ideas are helpful in self-understanding. We went to school for that. We learned ABC, then we forget about ABC because we know how to use them. So our learning of Buddhism, opinions and so on also work in the same way. So if you are stuck with one idea and you think that's good forever, then you are stuck there in words and ideas. So we don't have to believe anything in that sense. It is important that we have direct experience. In simple terms, we use the word feeling. To feel is to directly experience what? Experience life. To be present with people when we talk with them. To be present wherever you are. And then you find you are peaceful. You know, in all my years conducting all these counseling courses, Buddhist psychology, simply talking to people, one question I often ask them is, do you remember the happiest moment in your life? More of them say they do not than they do. And I'm quite surprised that they don't seem to remember happy moments in their lives. So I tell them, it's still not today. Right now, you're sitting here, it's very peaceful and wonderful. Remember this moment. When you go to a beautiful place, remember that place. Record that peace wherever you are. It's a beautiful garden, mountain place, beautiful valley. Record those moments. There are meditations for all this. For example, there is a meditation called the perception of light. Another one is called perception of space. And this is what the meditation is teaching us. You go to a beautiful, spacious place in Bhutan, in Tibet, China, it could be anywhere. Wonderful, spacious place. You just go there, take a photograph, or you come back, show your friends, that's it, and you can remember the spaciousness. Then, you might as well not go there. You just look at pictures. You know? Because if you are in that kind of place, you should sit quietly. Let all your five senses experience that spaciousness. Then close your eyes, picture it. That's how you store it in memory. Then open your eyes again, feel the spaciousness again, store it in your mind. Then later on you can use this in your meditation. It brings you joy. Same thing with brightness, light. Beautiful bright place. Enjoy the brightness. See the brightness. Close your eyes, record it in your mind. When you start, open your eyes again, back and forth like that. Perception of light, Avokasana. And then perception of space, Akasasana. So these are all different practices we use to bring joy and light into our lives. It's a direct experience of life. And of course, when talking to people, present moment awareness. So there are many such practices we can use to experience life directly, not second-hand, not third-hand. And then we examine life and understand in such a way that we will wake up. In other words, in Buddhism, we don't say we are sinners, we don't say we are evil even. We say that it's unskillful not to know things. It's because we are caught up with ideas. These ideas fix us in a certain way. And if we are fixated to those ideas, that is worse. We will never change, so to speak, which is against nature. Because we are changing, we're just holding it back. So it's a kind of like a battle going on. And we are suffering because we're in the middle of it all. So this idea of waking up means we are living in a kind of, we are sleeping, we are still asleep, maybe dreaming. All these ideas we are dreaming. You notice sometimes when we relate to people, when we work with people, we find that sometimes the way they behave, the things they talk about, the things they quarrel about, are so unimportant, so unreal. Suddenly you realize, am I dreaming? It's not so real, you know, right? So this is when you like to get away from such a situation. We like to get out of that kind of environment because it's unreal. We want to wake up to reality. Something like that. Huh? Human beings have the capacity to tap the potentials to become truly free, happy and creative beings. So when we talk about Buddhist psychology, we can, modern Buddhist psychology, we can say goes back more or less slightly over 100 years, at the end of the 19th century, at the end of the 20th century, beginning of the 20th century, the end of what, 1890s and the 1900s, when people like William James in America and Wilhelm Wundt in Germany, they were talking about introspection. They were talking about the need to examine our minds. So William James is one of those leading thinkers. He's special in Buddhist psychology because he's one of those people who really promoted Buddhist psychology, was very impressed with Buddhist psychology. He mentions some of the ideas in his 1890 book called Principles of Psychology, and also in his varieties of religious experience, that he wrote too. These are classics written by him. Now, his awareness of Buddhism began, I think, or rather the highlight of it, was when he met a layman Dharma worker, an Anagarika called Dharmapala. He's a remarkable Sinhalese layman who decided not to become a monk because he felt that the monks were not doing their work. So he rather worked as a layman and he traveled around the world giving talks. So he went to the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago, and then he met William James and he was giving all these talks about meditation, about non-self, and William James was impressed. After hearing Anagarika Dhammapada talk, in the lecture hall, it is said that William James got up from his seat and then addressed Dhammapada and says, you know, you're the one who should be taking the lecture hall. You should be the professor, you know. The way you're talking is something we'll be doing. It is a psychology everybody will be studying 25 years from now, 25 years later. He must be over-optimistic. It took another 100 years before the new psychology actually came into being, which we will look at in a moment near the end of this presentation. But he was definitely very excited that such ideas were possible. So in other words, he had this very intelligent, open mind to see what Buddhism has to offer. So William James, one of those people, in 1904 he met Dhammapada, and he also uses terms like stream of consciousness. In Pali we have the whole Vijnana Sota and so on. In fact, in Buddhism, we are very comfortable talking about consciousness the way the quantum physicists talk about reality. We can talk of consciousness in terms of a stream of consciousness, which is Abhidharma likes to talk in that way. And we can also talk of consciousness as particles. The suttas often talk in that way. So either way, there's no problem because consciousness is abstract. So this method, which people like William James and Wilhelm Wundt talked about, is called introspection. Intro means within, spec means to see. You look within yourself. Now, it's a beautiful word, but the problem is, yes, we have to look into our mind, but how do we do that? Nobody knew how. So as you know, the scientists are very good with us, we were arguing and discussing, but they couldn't come to a common agreement. Nobody knew what to do, because nobody were meditating, for example, so they did not know what to do. So, to cut a long story short, they were not able to really find out how the mind works. But the idea was there. But the ideas were not strong enough to work with some theories that the scientists can work with. And they did not know enough Buddhist texts and so on. They did not meditate. So there was another school that came up. It's called behaviorism. They decided to debunk introspectionism. They say, oh, you can't see the mind, why bother at all? Let's not talk about consciousness. Forget about it. So we have people like Pavlov, who experimented with animals, dogs especially, who conditioned the dogs He rings the bell and then gives food to the dog. We're not doing that. And then one day he just ring the bell and give food, and then the dog salivated. Such ideas were used to show that human behavior can be conditioned, can be controlled. That's why it's called behaviorism. And then there are other people like Skinner and Watson and so on, so they developed such ideas. Behavior modification, crowd control, the people in authority love that, the governments love this. So they became very popular up to the 50s. Today we still use behaviorist ideas, but not in themselves alone. We combine them with the cognitive theories and so on. So it's called cognitive behavior therapy. And then you have other kinds of methods like psychodynamics, as the one from Buddhism and so on. So today you have a wide range of psychological methods, all of which can be found in Buddhism, all of which are part of the Buddhist healing practice. So, I'm not sure what's wrong with this. Someone just trying to remove that from this number. Alright, so one of the problems is how to report what we call what you see in your mind. It's not easy, right? But in Buddhist meditation training, we have what's called the interview method. So someone meditates and then he goes and sees the teacher will explain to him what to do. And that aspect is very important. But that's where the quality of the meditation is centered. What sort of advice does a teacher give? It's not mere philosophy. It's not mere Zen talk. It is something very simple, and yet it is doctored down to the person's experience and practice. So that's his or her meditation improves. And this is where the person will heal himself. So this is something that we have to, a rapport with the teacher. And then later we begin to know how to deal with it ourselves. Now, so when we talk about the Western scientists looking at Buddhism, Buddhist psychology, meditation, some people say that, this modern science and psychology especially, is being influenced by the Buddhists. So when the universities in the US decided to invite the Dalai Lama to come over, the Chinese scholars protested. They say this is political, they don't want the Dalai Lama there. So you have this kind of issues. Is Buddhism influencing psychology? But on the other hand, now after more than a decade, 2 decades in fact, one generation, we can also ask the question, is now Buddhism being influenced by psychology? For example, here I am sitting here talking to you with all those terms, psychology, cognitive consciousness, existential consciousness, and so on. Yes, we do influence each other, at least on the word level, on the level of ideas, which are useful, enriching for both sides. This is called dialogue. And this is something very vital that Buddhism is giving to human civilization as a whole. In other words, the ancient Buddhist ideas are enriching this modern science. Ancient wisdom, modern science. So this shows that there's something really worthwhile in the teachings of early Buddhism. At the same time, if we do not practice the real teachings or the authentic teachings of Buddhism, namely meditation is given in the suttas, you can forget all these things. And the next thing you have to do, perhaps you have to go to the scientists to learn all the suttas, so you have become very good in all these things. And if you don't meditate, one day you probably will have to go to one of those meditation salons in Orchard Road. They start opening up all these meditation centers where they have all, you go to these beauty parlors, they have all these salons where they have this big round thing they put over your head. You might have that one day. And they're able to see the computer which part of your brain is lighting up when you meditate. They're able to do that now. In other words, Buddhist, the meditation is no more religious. It has become scientific. What does it mean? It means meditation can be measured now. They can look at your brain and tell you how much electricity being activated there, which part is blood flow is going on, and so on. Then it becomes scientific. So here you are, the brain, different parts of the brain. Now what's interesting here is you find that if you do breath meditation, the left part of this frontal lobe, this is front part of your nose, so here, this part is will light up if you're doing breath meditation. They know all that. So you can't cheat meditation anymore. You can sit in front of a Dharma teacher, you won't know, you can see your mind. But you go to one of those meditation clinics, you'll say, hey, you're not doing well enough. They will tell you, they will know whether you are doing the right meditation or not. So you do loving kindness properly, this part lights up on the left side. Okay. If you're doing breath meditation, this part becomes more relaxed. The right side, parietal lobe. So there you are, the frontal lobe. And now, here you have three parts. This is what's called the lizard brain. This is the limbic region, this is the emotions, and this is the higher brain, the mammals. Now this is amazing because when I look at this and compared with the kind of meditation I've been taught, and the sutras I've been teaching, the ones I've been learning, it's amazing of the progression, the power of progression of the two. Let's say you go for a meditation retreat, you go for a meditation class. What does the teacher tell you? The teacher tells you, sit comfortably, relax, keep your breathing comfortable. What is he doing? He is calming your lizard brain first. Learning to relax, breathe comfortably. Because the lizard brain deals with your breath and your normal physical function. Then we do metta, right? Yeah, be well, be happy. We practice, we cultivate positive thoughts to push away lustful thoughts, negative thoughts, to calm the limbic region, this part here, second meditation. And then we go deeper, simply watching ideas, enjoying the peace in your mind, and then your mind becomes happy, your mind becomes creative. You are cultivating this higher brain. So there you see a direct connection between meditation and the brain. You can also apply the first satipatthana here. The first satipatthana is of the body. You wash the body. So this is you're coming down the lizard brain. The second satipatthana is of feelings. Feelings? Yeah, you have the limbic region. And then Chittanupassana, right? The mind. And then the last one is Dhammanupassana. So the last two is with the higher brain, the neocortex. Neo means new, the new brain, so to speak. So this one is the big region. Here, of special interest in amygdala is where the fight or flight instincts come from. So when you do lots of loving kindness, you are coming down this very primitive part of your brain. Because too much of it is not good. It makes your heart rate goes up, breathing goes up, and you burn yourself faster and life becomes shorter. So we learn to calm this down. I suppose you can say devas don't have amygdalas at all, I suppose. Because you don't have a brain anyway. They're not religious beings, but they don't have the kind of physical brain that we have. So they don't suffer the way we suffer. Right? So that's something to think about. And hypothalamus is memory. No, they used to say that taxi drivers, because they remember all these roads and
hippocampus is a memory.
Sorry, hippocampus. And they have better memories. Okay, so these are some extra things that you want to know, can read up in the book or look up some psychology book. And here, these are the different kinds of brain I was talking about. Lizard brain is a lower part, then the middle brain and the new brain.
There's another section of it, is it? There's another perspective of the human brain.
Yeah, that's right. It's the transverse cut across. Technical aspects you can look up in notes. Okay? Now, how did meditation become so popular the way it has become today? Something bigger. It started with this meeting with this businessman and then this scientist, this Chilean scientist, And this meeting between these two people, they decided to start a series of conferences called the Mind and Body Conference. And then in 2001, this researcher, Richard Davidson, decided that he needed human guinea pigs to test how do you measure all these brain waves and so on in meditation. I was myself invited to be a guinea pig at the DSO, and I said no to them. They're very disappointed. They said, can I put wires in my head and check my meditation? I said, how do you get those people from the forest land to be much better candidates? So the Dalai Lama was very happy. He said, yes, I can apply as many monks you want. Of course, some of these monks have been living in caves and outside Tibet for a long time. So the scientists have to go there with the instruments and they put these wires on the bed and they start to measure. And it's amazing some of the things that they discovered. Let me just mention one or two. You see, one of it is called the startle syndrome or startle effect. So they told this meditator, well ahead, they said at some point, you won't tell you when, we will play a kind of a loud blast, a gunshot or something. Now you hear a gunshot, yeah, bang, they all startle, right? It's natural to do that. And the scientists all agree that that's something we all have. So they tried that. They said this man is meditating and bang goes the gun. But all those waves were very gentle, no change, but nothing happened. So they thought, oh, well, we probably did it wrongly. Let's try again. Maybe one more time. No change. 3 times, nothing happened. Then they have to conclude, they said, gentlemen, I think we've got to go back to the drawing board. There's no such thing as a startle effect. I mean, it may work on most people, but meditation, when you're meditating, you can cancel out the startle effect. So what is the significance of this? It means that meditation can reach so deep into the mind as to be able to adjust certain kinds of human reactions which are negative. So they were excited about this. So now you want this, here you have this, how did they begin to measure the brain, to measure activity, its effect on the brain? You might say it started with before all these instruments, all these machines and X-rays and so on were used, they had to open up the skull and look into the brain and deal with the invasive. It's quite a nasty way of doing things. Anyway, someone called Wilder Penfield did that in the 1930s, and through his experiments he began to map the brain. You know, you have seen this diagram where in the brain you see a part of the human body stretched out all the way, different part of the brain kind of deal with different part of the body. So he's the one who did that. But of course, nobody likes their brain, their skull to open up and the scientists start working on it, it could damage the brain. Then X-ray was invented. You could see through the body without any invasive kind of cutting up people. And then the CAT scan, then the EEG, where you use electrical impulses to notice activity of the heart. And then the MRI, magnetic resonance imagery, you can see activities of the brain. So with this kind of instruments, we're able to see what's going on in meditation. So you can see here all this bright light showing what happens when the brain is active or resting and so on. And this is the kind of machine, how it looks like, those MRI machines and so on. These are different technical names you can read out in the book. So in other words, with this kind of machine, they're able to see meditation in action. And then they start, one of the ways they recorded these activities is through all these brain waves. So very simply, you find that in our daily life, these are the waves here. And as we become more calm, as we meditate, the waves become more relaxed and we become more peaceful. So we are able to measure how we meditate. We can more or less see how we meditate. With this kind of measuring tools, meditation has become a science. Then, Of course, why do we want to meditate? The scientists know the benefits. Richard Davidson and his group of people, including John Kabat-Zinn, they experimented with a group of office workers over a period of 2 or 3 months. Control group don't meditate, the experimental group meditated, doing the breath and kindness. And they found after a couple of months, they felt really good, productivity went up, and when they take all these, what do you call, things that to immunize themselves, that this immunity lasted longer, the medicine worked better. And as a result, that now they use breath meditation, loving kindness meditation as complementary therapy for people taking medication for hypertension, AIDS, other kinds of emotional problems which need medication, and they find this helps to help the patient to heal faster. And you find that here there's better blood flow, lower heart rate, lower blood pressure when you meditate. For example, you feel lighter. So the health benefits are all there. Then there's greater relaxation, more importantly, more self-control, and intuition, wisdom, the third training. And with this kind of method, we can also rehabilitate. Prison inmates, for example, in India, they use Vipassana and so on. And of course, as Buddhists, you know, religion is very important for us in terms of creating a positive mind, enjoying greater happiness by experiencing the truth, by seeing reality and happening. Now, there is one very important difference between the mind scientists and the Buddhist teachers of the mind, Buddhist psychology. And that is the problem of the mind and the brain. To the scientists, consciousness comes from the brain. The brain is the seat of our consciousness. But you don't see this in the Buddhist text at all. The Buddha never said that consciousness comes from the brain or has anything to do with the brain at all. Consciousness, in other words, is not located according to this. And this is the main difference. Right? Of course, both parties can either prove or disprove this. It is an interesting idea and they are working separately. So this is one big difference between them. However, one interesting discovery was made in the 1980s in Sheffield, in the UK. There was this young man whose head was slightly bigger than others, and as a student in his university, he complained of some kind of head problem, headache. And when the doctors examined it, this Professor Lawler examined it, he found that this young student, very intelligent, above average, doing very well in studies, he has only water in his brain. And his water pressure is so strong that there is no normal brain that we have. There's hardly a millimeter left of the brain matter near the skull. In other words, we're talking about no brain out here. But this boy is an intelligent boy. So there goes, we just need one anomaly. You can't say, now, without this boy's no brain, that memory is stored in the brain. So there goes the theory. So in Buddhism, it's not a problem for us. We say that the mind is not a brain. It's more than that, if you need to say that. And the mind can be trained. In fact, the second Buddhist training is about training the mind. How about the brain? Can the brain be trained, or at least can the brain be repaired? Here again, it's a tricky situation. We can't really there's no such thing as brain transplant. But they notice in meditation that changes do occur in the brain. And one kind of change was really welcome. You know, we often forget things, right? Especially as we grow older, we tend to forget more things. And how do we remember things? We spend a quiet time by recalling words that we know. we try to recall texts, things that we can remember, and then we connect one thing to another, one thing to another, then we say, oh yes, that's it, you get the answer back. What is happening when you do that? The spark plugs in your brain, the synapses, they are bursting. The old ones, the dendrites, are dead. Okay? So the new ones are sparkling, and they start connecting. And once they connect correctly, that's it, they got the information. So we need to go on doing that. If we don't, then you have less and less spark plugs left. In other words, imagine your brain is like an island with a certain finite number of trees. Now, as you grow older, the trees die out. Less and less trees as we grow older. So to the very old people who do not use their brains and do not meditate, they retire and just drink drinks with an umbrella in them, then you could have less and less trees left on this island. And once you have very few trees left, you can't take anymore. Right? So the idea is how to get those trees growing by activating your mind, especially through meditation. So we've got to be active right to the very last moment, so to speak. And you find those great thinkers, people like Albert Einstein, Bertrand Russell, they were active right to the last moment. And that's a great way to live. Okay. So here, coming back to how we know we are meditating, you see here this first image, A. Look at this, this is baseline, here's meditation. Starting point, meditation. Now before meditation, you see this part here, they're kind of broken. But here, the frontal lobe, especially the left frontal lobe, is connected. This is when the person is doing loving kindness very well. Okay? The blood flows well. Now here, notice this parietal lobe, lots of blood here. But when the person is doing breath meditation, it's more relaxed here. So a sense of spaciousness, light feeling. Okay? So this is how they know what's happening in meditation. Okay? And of course, we have been talking a lot of good things about meditation. And you know in Singapore today that you just look at the papers on the computer, there's so many classes offered for meditation. Almost everybody is teaching meditation. We do not know how many years they learn or they learn, but if you look around, you find there are many groups of meditation. Not all of them work, so you have to really check them out, see whether they really work or not. One simple rule of thumb is, if you meditate, if you're good and happy and calm, it should be nothing problem. On the other hand, some methods are simply auto-suggestion, self-hypnosis, so it's not really that helpful. Now there are some problem groups like the Divine Light Mission, they changed their name to the Longita in the US. These are cults you have to avoid. They've been documented to creating lots of problems, exploiting people and so on. And then you have this group called the Siddha Yoga cult, where the guru has sex with teenagers. And you have the very controversial Geshe Rosh, Michael Rosh, who doesn't observe Vinaya. Although he calls himself a monk, a Tibetan monk, he has a woman going around with him, even on his retreat. He comes to Singapore occasionally to give mentioning classes. So these are things you have to be told, you know what to do, what not to do. And when you come to actual meditation, preparation is very important. In other words, if you want to resolve emotional and psychological issues, then you have to get a proper instructor, someone who is experienced, who knows what he's doing, and so that engage with you. And for the meditation to work, the environment is important too. The environment should be peaceful enough, quiet enough. It's not easy to find such a place in Singapore, but it's possible. A quiet office room maybe, the right time. This does help with proper guidance. Shorter sittings, not too long. For longer sittings, you go to really quiet place. And the practice should be balanced. In other words, take and heart rather than loving kindness. If you do one that may help, then it becomes lopsided. Because something you do only breath and you feel good about it, you become very introverted, you do not talk to people. You might not even know it might be strange. Or if you do only loving kindness without breath, then you become very friendly, you find people are really good, but you always want excitement without knowing how to be peaceful, for example. Right? So this is not a problem. Meditation is the person's personality. So this is when, again, an experienced meditative teacher won't make you sit 1 hour straight away without interviewing you. But this is a very dangerous thing to do. And especially during my time as a nun, it was 20 years as a nun, this is one of the terrible things that I had to go through. People telling me somebody broke down in the meditation retreat, especially so-called Vipassana retreats and so on. And this happened again and again. Because people just told to sit long, just sit as long as you can. Don't get caught up with joyful states, things like that. So, the good meditation is when you deal with yourself, you're dealing with yourself. And our minds are our minds are tricky, wandering and jumping around all the time. So we have to calm that mind first patiently, compassionately. And so we have to kind of be at peace with ourselves, step by step. So meditation is a very gentle practice, we're being kind with ourselves. And then ultimately, we need to be self-reliant. We cannot all the time be running after the teacher. Okay? You go to the teacher for a while, yes, and when you need advice, you go to the teacher, yes, but then it's not little you have to hold. And meditation is really a very symbolic gesture of the human spirit. You sit alone. Even if you are married, you have to sit alone. Because that's how we solve our problems. That's how we discover our true selves, by being alone and yet not lonely, like the Buddha under the Bodhi tree. That's how we focus and go deep into our being and see our true worth, our potential, so that we can use that to help others and help the world. Now all this meeting between Buddhist wisdom and modern science came to a head with a series of conferences starting in 1987. So this person called Piya and Francisco Varela, which I mentioned earlier. Engel is the businessman, Francisco Varela is the Chilean scientist. So they working together with the Dalai Lama to start a series of wonderful conferences, mind and life conferences. So the first one was in 1987. They gave the conference theme as comparative approaches to cognition, Western and Buddhist, very general. Then 2 years later, they focused on neuroscience and unembodied relationship. 1990, notice very closely. 1990, 92, 95, 97, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. So very regular. They have the conferences at least once every 1 or 2 years. Then 1990, Healing Emotions. They even published a book on that. And then 1992, Sweet Dreams, Dying, 95, Altruism, Ethics, Compassion. See here, this is very important ethics. 1987, the new physics and cosmology. You want to know what Buddhists think about the universe and so on? 1999, quantum physics. I suppose the Pope must be scratching his head. How can we really get the scientists to come and talk with us? And here the scientists are talking with the Buddhist monks. So they were amazed that this could happen. And then 2000, destructive emotions. 2001, investigating human brain function. 2002, latent chemistry. And this is 5 episodes when you can look up more on your computer. So here are other things. Okay, 2005. 2003, we talked about investigating the mind. 2004, neuroplasticity. I mentioned neuroplasticity a while ago, how the brain makes new connections. The brain is able to mend itself. It's called how the neuro means the brain in this case, plus plasticity means ability to heal itself. It can be molded. Then 2005 is investigating the mind. And this is about how clinical application of meditation. Now they're already using meditation as a mainstream practice in the counseling arts. Now here you see 2005, the gathering of these people talking about meditation and psychology. So here you have Dalai Lama in the center, and Richard Davidson here, and this Wallace is here. Yeah, Adam Wallace. Chanamaru, which I'm just student here, and here you have Catholic monk or priest. So they are here. One group are the scientists of the classicals, the material school, and the other group are the scientists who are with Buddhist leanings. So you have quite an interesting group. So we're coming near the end now. So you see Buddhism going through stages of development. We have what are called models. In early Buddhism, the model, the key figure we want to be the arhat. Then after the Buddha, the rise of Mahayana, the idea of the Bodhisattva was highlighted. Then another few centuries passed, especially during the Middle Ages, the 12th century, 11th century, 12th century. You have the Siddhas. The Siddhas are these they're like Qigong, they're kind of very unconditional lay people. They regarded as great saints by Tantric Buddhism. These are developments beyond early Buddhism. They do not reflect on Buddhism, of course. And then you have, in the last millennium, the Zen. The Zen, this is a kind of a big-time entrepreneur, a banker. But throughout Buddhism's history, Buddhism is supported by merchants, business people. Anathapindika, for example, was a Zen. He donated the growth to the Buddha. So this person became the key figure, this model became the key figure. In other words, they're highly respected, and it is because of them Buddhism seems to be mainstream, so to speak. And then just a bit of vision, our own time, who is the model? Here's the Vidyadhara. Vidyadhara is the scientist. So today there's a lot of premium on knowledge, science, and so on. This is the mainstream Buddhism, the surface of the water. Underlying all this, of course, you still see Buddhism, early Buddhism, quietly flowing. And that's what we want to touch, the real thing. Beyond that are the extra, the excitement, the fun, the joy. So this is the fashionable Buddhism, if you want, the trends that goes on. So the question now is, will science validate Buddhism one day? If science take over psychology, start talking about meditation, and they can talk about all the Buddhist teachings in a scientific way, do we need traditional way? We don't need to bow down anymore, we don't even need Buddha images, or maybe we just have a nice Buddha statue or pointing statues and ornament, that's all. Will that happen? Well, I don't think that will happen. People will be superstitious right at the end of civilization. But there are also people who are thinking, who like to go to Buddhism directly. So we have a choice. The great thing is we do have a choice. That's very important. But it is also important to choose wisely when it comes to matters of the heart, so to speak. And to Buddhists, my teachings are very important. I'm sure it's a very interesting story told by people. There was this class of students, the teacher asked these young primary school students, what's the biggest thing in the world? So someone said, oh, an elephant. I saw this elephant in the zoo, it's very big. And someone said, oh no, it says that the sky is the biggest still. And another boy said, oh, the universe is the biggest thing. And then one really clever girl says, oh, my eye is the biggest thing in the world. Suddenly some people started thinking, why did the person say the eye? That's strange. Say, well, my eye can see everything that you mentioned. And the story stops there. We can add the joint value. The biggest thing in the world is the mind itself. Because the mind that conceives all these things. That is why we go directly to the mind in meditation. Because the mind is the biggest thing in the world. So, finally we come to the end. So, a bit of time to ask questions if you want. Sorry? Cognitive. Cognitive. That means how we know things. Have you finished your book? Still writing, yeah? No, it's good. You always taking notes. Alright, any questions? So Buddhism is giving a new relevance to the mind. Buddhism is pointing out to this new learning, and as practicing Buddhists, it's very important for us to not to say keep up, but rather practice what the Buddha has been advising us. Simple as that. And all the scientists are doing is they are telling us they are discovering this wonderful thing that the Buddha is talking about 2,500 years ago. They're not talking about worship, they're not talking about rituals, they're talking about mind training. And this is something we need to learn about. And the more you read the scientific journals, you find they're talking about Buddhism. And if you know the technology and the methods, you find we are way ahead of them in terms of actual practice. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, no questions, yeah? Okay, so it's not we end here, it's just nice the timing. Now, if you want the slides, you have to email me because I can give you a copy of the slides. Just send me the slides and send the slides are separate here, given the top elsewhere, within one of those courses with the Singapore Buddhist Federation. Okay, let us spend a quiet moment together. Today we have taken a quick survey of how the Buddha, even today, is reaching out to some of the wisest of the minds among us, especially those dealing with modern science, psychology, counseling, and so on. These great minds are discovering that early Buddhism is able to heal human beings. It's able to inspire us to be creative beings, to enjoy beauty, to see truth. And this renews our vision and purpose as Buddhists ourselves, to see so many beautiful things in the suttas. Once you understand the language of the suttas, then you also begin to appreciate the substance, the teachings of the suttas. It's all there. It's a matter of knowing how to read the codes of the sutta. If we do this, then we increase our own wisdom, our joy, experience of truth and beauty in a very deep, high level. Reflecting in this way is very good mental karma. And by the power of our own faith in the three jewels, by keeping the precepts, our desire to attain mental peace, through our generosity, and many other good practices. May we attain mental peace in this life itself. Above all, may we attain spiritual liberation, namely streamlining in this life itself. And in this moment of peace, let us send out our loving kindness to all beings, especially people who work hard for this place, and also send our loving kindness to our relatives and friends. And today, let us especially dedicate the merits of this gathering and our efforts to study the Dharma and to the late Jimmy Chuan, cousin of William Chuan, who passed away yesterday. Wherever he's reborn, may his good karma fruit in joy and peace for him. If he's reborn in any suffering states, he may quickly get out of it for higher states. If he's reborn in higher planes, may he shower his blessings, prosperity, and all of us. Above all, may he see the Dharma in due course and enjoy mental blessings of the Dharma. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.